I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
City seized in the war, a great empire lost like never before. Emperor Zena was sent out to sea, exiled by a republic enemy. But to the dark continent he then fled, to form an alliance for hellish dread. Emperor Kylos agrees to the plan, develop the Brachios he began. Brachios, I'm a Brachiosaurus. Brachio, laser guns and war chorus. Brachios, fortune steel, silver and red. Brachios, fight the hell it can leave them dead. Now see AC 2422. Invasion sparks and outlaws war anew. Deploy a medium combat Zoids now. Seniva's empire holds its vengeance vow. Brachios crosses the scene with Zoid might, assault the Republic bases at night. Fire the laser guns and take the shore. This is a righteous, bloody, holy war. Brachios, I'm a Brachiosaurus. Brachio, laser guns and war chorus. Brachio, fortune steel, silver and red. Brachios, fight the hell it can leave them dead. It's now CAC 2422. Invasion sparks and now it's war anew. Deploy a medium combat Zoids now. Seniva's empire holds its vengeance vow. Brachios, in full swing. Those Republican dogs will feel our sting. Brachios seizes the shore and pushes on. Conquest has begun with our might upon. Brachios, I'm a Brachiosaurus. Brachios, lays a guns and war chorus. Brachios, watch its feel of silver and red. Brachios, fight the helic and leave them dead. Brachios, I'm a Brachiosaurus. Brachios, lays its guns and war chorus. Brachios, watch its feel of silver and red. Brachios, fight the helic and leave them dead. One plan, Zoidstar, our forces are crushed. The blue guardian Zoid army is hushed. Mighty Zoidzilla, fallen and gored too. How can we blue Zoids push on with so few? But we must and we shall, it is our goal. Wipe out the red Zoids and make Zoidstar whole. As Core and Zoidzilla are both rebuilt, blue Zoid factories turn on at full tilt. Dramadon, Brachiosaurus seeks wars. Dramadon, vicious renegade Zoid roars. Dramadon, built in red and silver steel. Dramadon, now seeks other Zoids to kill. But all goes wrong as Zoids run out of control. Blue Zoid factories make them with no soul. Now the renegades, they won't be contained. Blue Zoids must fight them, we will not be shamed. Of the renegades, he is Dramadon. Cybernetic Brachiosaurus gone. With laser guns and burning hate he'll fight. There's no heart in his cyber soul of spite. Dramadon, Brachiosaurus seeks wars. Dramadon, vicious renegade Zoid roars. Dramadon, built in red and silver steel. Dramadon, now seeks other Zoids to kill. Even the other renegades fear him. Dramadon destroys them on but a whim. Cyberdon will know his laser fire. Another blue Zoid mistake to the pyre. Dramadon, Brachiosaurus seeks wars. Dramadon, vicious renegade Zoid roars. Dramadon, built in red and silver steel. Dramadon, now seeks other Zoids to kill. Dramadon, Brachiosaurus seeks wars. Dramadon, vicious renegade Zoid roars. Dramadon, built in red and silver steel. Dramadon, now seeks other Zoids to kill.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight.
The Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.